All right, I wanted to show you a little bit about classification. Now, obviously, I've got all this stuff here, and I'm going to classify it. Now, obviously, there's not near as many objects here as there is animals, so there might not be as many groups as there would be with organisms. But I wanted to show you a little bit about how we separate these out. So I'm going to move this. First thing we're going to do is we're going to split it into kingdoms. Now, some scientist somewhere decided that there was, when I was in 7th grade science, 2 kingdoms, plants and animals. Some other scientists later decided there are 6. So in my classification of these hardware pieces, I've decided to split my hardware into 3 kingdoms. And when I look at my items here, I see that I have some groupings that I can use. My first kingdom is going to be kingdom threads, meaning any of these pieces that have threads, threads to screw them in, go into one kingdom. There's all kinds, whoops, they're rolling away. All kinds of different types here that have threads, and I think it's important that we see, whoops, all the ones that have threads. Do I have them all? I think so. Anyway, there's one. And then, so I've split all these into kingdom with threads. My second kingdom I decided to do was no threads. Whoops. I'm going to go ahead and do my third kingdom, washers. Now, here's the reason I went ahead and did my third kingdom, because washers don't have threads, and I didn't want them to go in the no thread kingdom. So I'm going to take all my items that don't have threads and put them over here. Okay, no threads. Is that the only other ones? I think it is. Okay, then washers. I'm going to take all my washers. Now I've taken all my pieces I had. Let me take this camera out and I'll show you what I got. I've got kingdom threads. I've got kingdom no threads. And then I've got kingdom washers. So you can see I've got them spread into kingdoms. Now I want to put them, this kingdom goes into phylums, and I've decided to do 2 phylums. You don't have to do 2 phylums, but again, I don't have as many objects, so it's tough to get in a bunch of phylums. I've split each one in 2 phylums. A scientist would not have to split them into 2 phylums. They could split them into 5 phylums, and you'll see that when you do your project. So I've decided to do my kingdom threads, phylum I screw, and phylum just regular screw. Okay, so I'm going to take, I actually have other ones over here. I'm going to take my I screws and I'm going to put them in phylum I screw. And I'm going to take my regular screws, grabbing some here, and put them in my phylum regular screw. So I've taken my kingdom threads, which I took out of all my hardware, and I've split them into phylums. Now I'm going to take my kingdom threads, or excuse me, no threads, and I'm going to split them into, let's see, what were my phylums I decided on? Flat and round. Flat and round. So, let's see. Oh, that was, sorry. Kingdom no threads, long and short. So my kingdom threads and no are going into phylum long and short. So I'm going to take my long ones, put them on one side. This can go over here too. And my short ones, and put them over here. Okay, now I'm coming over here to washers. I've split those into phylum metal and non-metal. notice the only other material I have is rubber. Notice I didn't make it phylum rubber because there could be many materials washers are made out of. It might not be rubber. So I needed it to be a dichotomy. I can choose metal or non-metal, and honestly, putting it that way, there's no material that you could make a washer out of that wouldn't fit in one or the other. Again, remember, a dichotomy is a choice of two, and you can't choose none, and you can't choose both. You have to choose one or the other. That's what a dichotomy is. And if I would have made this phylum rubber, then what if I had, a polyurethane washer? Where would it go? It wouldn't fit in either, so I'd have a problem. So metal and non-metal is a good dichotomy. All right, so metal. I'll take some from over here. Samples. Here's my metals. And here are my non-metals. All right, so I've got them, all my kingdoms split into phylums. So now I'm going to take my phylums and I'm going to put them into class. And again, a scientist is kind of making this up. So you could have 5 classes, you could have 10 classes. I just don't have that many materials, so I'm not doing that. I'm going to do phylum I screw. I'm going to do it open and close, and I'll show you what that meant in a minute. Open is an I screw that's closed. It's a complete loop. Or excuse me, that's closed. Here's open. It's not quite closed. All right, so I'm going to put these like this. I'm running out of pieces, so I'm just going to pull them down here. Phylum screw. My classes are flat and round. I'll show you what that means in a minute. All right, I have some with flat heads. See, that's got a flat head on it. All these have round ones. They're very rounded heads. Okay, then I get to my kingdom, no threads, phylum long. My classes are going to be, has to do with the heads as well. Let's see. Head flat, head round. So you have some that the head is not terribly big. So those would be rounded. Let's see if I can find a better example. This one maybe. See how rounded that is? These heads are flat. They have a flat surface that you can hit it with a hammer. So flat and round. Now I've got phylum short, the short screws. Let's see, I believe we had big and small. So this one's a lot bigger and that one's a lot smaller. Okay, now we're over to kingdom washers, phylum metal. And my classes I decided on were big hole and small hole, meaning the size of the hole in the center. And I'm thinking in my head, big as opposed to the whole size of the washer. So this one's pretty small for the whole size of the washer. So I'm going to put it in small hole. This one's pretty small for the size of the washer, so is this one. I think these are fairly large in comparison with the whole size of the washer. Okay, and then the last one, phylum non-metal. I put beveled, and I'll show you what that means in a minute, and non-beveled. All right, this one is beveled. You see how the edge, the one side of it is like bent and bigger? It kind of goes up like a hill. That's a beveled washer. This one is non-beveled. It's just flat. So beveled and non-beveled. All right, so what I've got here, let me move my pen. I've got my entire classification from kingdom to phylum to class. Now, if I were really doing animals and I had a million of them, like in organisms, I would split my classes into families. There would be several families for each class. Notice you don't take an organism from phylum screw and put it over here in class washer small hole. You can't do that. It all has to stay together. Once I get families, you'd split it up even more, and you get down to a genus and species, and the genus and species are the names of those, are the scientific name of the organism, or in this case, the hardware, and it becomes two words. And you might remember from chapter 13.2, they talked about binomial nomenclature. Nomenclature is a system of which you name something. I've noticed we have several systems of naming you in this classroom. We have people that have like a hyphenated last name. That's a different kind of nomenclature than those of us with just one last name. My last name is different than when I was born. That's our culture's nomenclature. It's our way of naming. Same way here, binomial nomenclature. Bi means two, nomial means name, so two name nomenclature. We name things with two names. A scientific name has two names. So anyway, you can get started on your work.